Hi, Kevin Coupe here, and this is FaceTime with the Content Guy. So I know I've been telling a lot of stories about my summer in the Pacific Northwest, but I have one more. Actually, I may have more than one, but I have one more I want to tell you today. As I've mentioned here, I think a number of times, one of the pleasures I found while living in Portland for the month of July was a place called the Stumptown Coffee Roasters. Now, this is a terrific little coffee shop in downtown Portland, and it is just a terrific place. It's the kind of place where on weekends, sometimes you can wait 15 or 20 minutes to get to the counter, but it's really worth it because the coffee is great and the ambiance is real, kind of gritty downtown Portland, and the people watching is fantastic. So I really enjoyed going there every day. I would go for a jog, and then I'd go back, and I'd shower, I'd get dressed, and I'd walk to Stumptown. And one of the things that when I'd do there, I'd read, I'd go through email, I'd correct papers sometimes, and it was just terrific. Well, once I went there pretty early in my visit. I went to Stumptown, and what I would do is I would order basically a black coffee, and I'd also order a large non-fat latte, and that was just enough to kind of get me through what I needed to do while I was at Stumptown. And so pretty early in my visit, I went to Stumptown, and I went up and I placed my order, large non-fat latte. Then I grabbed a seat at the counter, and I pulled out my iPad, and I got to work doing some email. And I'm sitting there, and I'm doing my work. And one of the things I noticed when I looked up was that that I saw the barista, and he was working on my latte, which sounded great. So I went back to my emails, and a few emails later, I realized that I hadn't gotten my latte yet. So I looked up at the barista, and he seemed to be about doing the same about the same point in the process that he'd been when I looked up the first time. Well, that was kind of odd, I thought, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. So I went back to my emails, but this time I sort of kept half an eye on him. And I noticed that he almost got done, and then he sort of disgusted, and he dumped it out. And he started all over again. And this time he called somebody over to kind of help him. And I watched, and they made the latte, and this time it seemed to be all good. And he hands me the latte in a glass, and it looks gorgeous, little squiggle in the top. The whole thing's great, but I couldn't help myself. So I said to him, all right, I'm just curious. What was wrong with the first two? At this point, the guy who had called over to help came over just to answer the question. His name was Bo, as I later would learn. And Bo explained to me that basically, apparently, a large non-fat latte is one of the hardest things they make. That non-fat skim milk, right, doesn't hold together the same way as whole milk or even 1% or 2%. So, in fact, when they get towards the end and they're about to do the little squiggle in the foam, if it's not holding together, they can't do it. So they dump it out and start all over again. Well, that was pretty interesting. I've been ordering, from Starbucks, venti skim lattes for a long time. Nobody ever told me it was a hard drink to make. Then I was curious, and I said to the guy, to Bo, just out of curiosity, if I'd gotten this to go instead of to stay, and you were going to put a top on it so I couldn't see the squiggle, would you have still gone through all that trouble? And he looked at me, and he sort of smiled, and he said, it's not worth doing if we don't do it right. Boy, was that the right answer. That is absolutely the right answer. That's the kind of dedication to excellence and focusing on the customer and the whole experience that everybody who's in retailing should want from their employees. It's such a perfect example of exactly what we all want. Because here's the deal. Sometimes we can see the stuff that matters, and sometimes we can't see the stuff that matters. But it all matters, especially the little stuff. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this Thursday morning, and as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.